Beyond the Pillion is recorded on the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders, past and present.
Welcome to Beyond the Pillion. My name is Kahiwa Sebire. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the chaotic one.
And I'm Mark Drechsler, he, him pronouns, and I'm the one you'll find in the shed at parties. Particularly if there's motorbikes and they're just kind of hanging out.
Absolutely. I mean, why would you want to hang around with people when there's motorbikes and or possibly even dogs?
Yep. Yeah, I'll probably end up out there, which is no disrespect to anybody. I mean, I don't get invited to parties obviously anymore, but for those people that I have where I've just kind of done that, then yeah, no offense meant. Right.
Absolutely not. No, today we are episode 19 and we have an absolute treat for you. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. We had a chance to grab some time with Remmi Aloni, the founder of Sheilas Shakedown. And I think we've mentioned this pretty incredible event a few times in previous episodes. And right now we are just a few weeks away from the 2024 edition. I'm excited, planning the ride over right now as we speak. So this was a fantastic opportunity, I think, to find out a little bit more about how Sheilas came to be and get some advice for you, dear listeners, who might be thinking about it or not quite sure, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yep, and as I sit here looking at the clock and thinking in about an hour and a half I'll be heading out on a group ride with about 50 other riders, and I'll take a punt right now that it's probably going to be about 45 to 48 of those are going to be men. And I think as I reflect on that, then it kind of just highlights the importance of events like Sheilas to really broaden that riding community and create spaces that are really trying to drive that diversity.
Absolutely. So exciting. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Remmi. All right. Hi, welcome, Remmi. I am so excited to have you here with us. We have spoken a little bit about Sheilas Shakedown in previous episodes, so this is a absolute huge treat to be able to talk to you. For our listeners, Remmi is the founder of the Australian iconic moto festival Sheilas Shakedown. It's an epic yearly event that welcomes and empowers female identifying and non-binary moto enthusiasts for a weekend-long festival of bikes, bands and babes held in rural Victoria. And the next one is coming up in the final weekend of February in 2024, and we are very excited. Thank you, Remmi, for coming along.
Thank you so much for reaching out. I love chatting bikes. I love chatting Sheilas. So yeah, this is all very good. Thank you.
Fantastic. I wondered if you might be able to share a little bit about yourself with our listeners. You've got a wonderful presence for Sheilas Shakedown online, but you yourself are a little bit more of an enigma, and I'm fascinated to hear a little bit more about you and how that led to something like Sheilas coming to exist.
Right. Well, I was never one of those people that grew up around motorcycles. I've never had any plan or intention of ever being into motorcycles. And I find that when people get asked, oh, how'd you get into motorcycles? Everyone's got this really cool story about growing up on a farm or their dad taught them. And I have nothing. I have no cool story. My story is that I was dating a guy at the time. This was 10 years ago or more. And he really wanted his motorbike license, and he was like, come on, you got to get it with me. And I was just like, no, it's expensive and I'm not into it. And but then he just went and booked his license, and I'm really competitive and got jealous. So then I just went and booked my license, but then I kind of ended up getting really into it, more than him, and started to I was quite a strong rider from quite early on. I just I guess from being on the road a lot, in cars or whatever, I just felt confident on the road. I handled the machine well, and it just blew up from there. And I think I just started to really get into the culture of it. So I was going to like so many motorcycle rallies and events and parties, and then I started meeting people. And as any motorcyclist knows what a phenomenally close and brilliant community the motorcycle community is. So I got to a point where I was just starting to really feel the people around me, and felt like I was part of a community. And then Sheila's just sort of came about sort of later on. I'd met all these really cool girls, and one of my very good friends was running a really small women's gathering. And she couldn't be bothered doing it anymore. So she said, well, do you want to do it with my friends Riley and Jazz? And we were like, yeah, we'll take it on. But we were like, but we're going to take it to another level. So because the Americas had like Babes Ride Out, the Dream Roll. There was VC London group that were doing something in the UK. There was another group that was established in Europe. And we were like, Australia doesn't have like that girls motorcycle event. So we kind of just ripped off like what was happening in other countries, but we were like, but let's give it a real Aussie personality and Aussie flavor to the event. And so we really injected a lot of humor into the event, and we didn't take ourselves too seriously, which I think is a very Australian kind of vibe.
Yes.
So you look at the American events or the European events, it just doesn't have that, which is fine. In fact, I think the American events like pull in 10 times more people than Sheila's does. But we just really wanted to own our own little space. And so, Sheilas Shakedown was born.
That's so exciting. And because I've saw in some of the articles online, like the numbers have been growing quite significantly over the last few years, that it started out as just like a one-day thing is now like a whole big weekend kind of deal. What do you think is like the main reason that people come to Sheila's, that you've either heard or that people have told you?
Well, one thing that we do differently to the events that happen overseas is we allow all women, gender diverse, trans people to come even if they don't ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
The idea is that you're just into the idea. So there isn't that, we don't have that restriction. Also, we're Australia. We don't have the numbers like, say, the US have or whatever. But I think it's such a unique space in that having a space that is predominantly women is a really, really unique, it creates such a unique energy. And it's like no other event that I've ever been to. It's like no other event any of the attendees have ever been to. And it's a very, very strong and empowering feeling. It's things just carry themselves a little bit differently than if you just go to a regular festival or party. And some amazing things have come from it. Not only have we encouraged so many more women and gender diverse people to get on bikes, but people have met their best friends there. People have met their partners there. People have met their now wives there. People have started businesses together who were met at Sheila's. So it's just been this really amazing, collaborative, networky, brilliant, creative space that actually has literally nothing to do with me. It's like the attendees come and then that's what they create and do with the space. So it's very unique and it's very special and it's very sacred, I think, space.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think one of the things when I rocked up, so I came over from Adelaide, so made the trip over,
Nice.
and came over by myself. So I was kind of tag teaming bike and car with my partner. He stayed in Ballarat for the weekend, and then I came to Sheila's. what I felt is I think I'd never seen that many women, non-binary, gender diverse people there, you know, in and around motorcycles in one space before. It was quite exhilarating, quite thrilling to be in a space like that with that many young women and basically non-men. And to feel so comfortable and so safe and so included, it was really eye-opening and quite heart-opening, actually, I think. Which,
nice.
yeah, I think a real testament to the space and to the people who obviously are attracted to the idea of Sheilas as well.
Yeah, that's it. And, I don't like to sort of pine on this point too much, but, obviously, there's so many subcultures and genres that are so male dominated. And look, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think, yeah, it can feel really exhilarating when you finally go to a space that's usually predominantly male dominated, and then you just get to see all these people, who are like you, who are female, who are into the same things. And it's just a nice place, I guess, to talk shop and and connect, because really, I mean, isn't that what it's about? Like, why else are we here? It's about connecting with each other. And, Sheila's is a beautiful place to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering, given, I suppose, it was my first time coming this year. I think I've managed to convince a few others from around Adelaide to come. Do you have any tips for maybe first timers who might be coming to Sheila's, hopefully next year or possibly into the future?
Yeah, I'll say there's no pressure to behave any kind of way at Sheila's. There's no pressure to dress in a certain way, and there's definitely no pressure to participate in anything. The idea is that you come to Sheila's and you create your own event, in a sense. Like, we have so many activities and things going on, but if you're the type of person who just likes to chill out at your campsite and then do like nice walks around the grounds, like, that's wholly encouraged. I think some people have an idea about that you come to Sheila's to get really wasted and like have a massive party and like get tattooed and take your top off. And look, you can do all those things, but you certainly don't have to at all. There's lots of different activities that happen throughout the day. You can dance all night on the dance floor. You can go to bed early. We have an arts and crafts session that happens on the Saturday. You can get involved in that. I mean, there's really no pressure to behave in any sort of certain way. Sheila's is for all people. You don't have to be a punk, or you don't have to be tattooed, or you don't have to be into certain music. Granted, that is kind of like, a lot of the bands are quite rock and punk. That is more of our vibe, I guess, but it's for everyone. So it's just about finding your comfort zone. Like, to give you an example, I'm the organizer. I've been organizing it since its inception. I've never taken my top off at Sheila's. I've never gotten tattooed at Sheila's. I don't take inebriates or get drunk at Sheila's. Some nights I go to bed really early. So yeah, I'd say it's really just, you come to do what you feel comfortable doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. Particularly coming by myself, it didn't seem that there were too many other people who were there on their own, but it did absolutely feel like there were a lot of variety of ways to engage and talk to people. There were lots of different things to do, and I think almost just permission to be, however you wanted to be, obviously in a safe and consenting kind of way, But yeah, if you wanted to be the kind of person who is kind of out there, top off, tits out, really embracing the shenanigans of the weekend, that's cool. And if you're wanting to enjoy some music and a drink and a bit of a camp and chats with friends, then there's also space to do that. And looking around at the cool bikes and cars and stuff there as well. It just felt like a very inclusive and freeing kind of time to be with other people too.
And good on you for going by yourself. We do encourage first timers and people who do come by themselves. We always try and do like a call out to say that, this is a good space to do it. So far, anyone who's ever come by themselves or has been a first timer, we've gotten a really, really positive response. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe some people found it really difficult and didn't have a good time, but I haven't gotten feedback from them. But a lot of people have said that Sheilas is the perfect event and festival to go by yourself. Yeah,
I think it's possibly a bit of a challenging thing for it's maybe for people who might be outside of Melbourne to, if you're going by yourself and don't have a lot of friends or maybe aren't really sure what to expect, there could be that little bit of fear or uncertainty. But I do feel like something like that, like a call out or that lots of opportunities to meet people, whether it's with the arts and crafts or with the Sheila Olympics or just the games and the karaoke and the markets and stuff. There's plenty of opportunity to get to know people, but also I think absolutely no pressure if that's not something that you're wanting to do either.
Yeah, and we always like to do call outs. So a few times we do have women contact us saying, I'm coming from the Northern Rivers by myself. Do you know of anyone? And I always say, make a post or make a story and I'll share that to the Sheila's page. So that's happened a few times, and then people connect, especially in other states, and end up writing to Sheilas together. So that's happened a few times. Maybe we need to do a bit more of an obvious post or something so people know that is an option. But we're more than happy to connect people.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the social media in the lead up to Sheila's this year, the call out for people who might be travelling down from Brisbane, and here's a couple of people join in and things like that, which I thought, again, was also great. And then seeing them actually arrive together at the grounds was really, really fun. And I thought a really great example of the community that I think can be forged through events like this, and also supporting people to be that little bit brave to make the trip maybe by themselves, or put the call out to say I'm here and I want to make some friends.
For sure. I mean, when I'm overseas or whatever, I love going to festivals by myself. It's scary and it's a big risk, but I guess it's just the way that you kind of meet people and end up having like crazier stories, things that you'll always remember.
Yes, 100% agree. Being that little bit of brave and doing the thing that might be a little bit scary, that's how you get the experiences that are really exciting and have the potential to kind of change how we live and how we move through the world, which I think is, for a lot of people is similar to how they come in to riding motorcycles, a bit like how you shared, not having many other people in your life who rode and then going, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. I know quite a few people who listen to this, and also just in general who have come to motorcycling in that kind of way. I wondered, given your experience and what you see with Sheila's, do you think there's anything that we could be doing more generally, or as fellow riders to try and get more women riding motorcycles or to stay riding motorcycles, the ones who kind of get started and maybe get a bit spooked?
Yeah, I think when it comes to riding and longevity of riding, it's really just it's bum on seat time. So like I know so many women who get a bike, they get their license, they're really excited about it, but then they don't ride because, it is easy to let it go, like let it lapse a bit, especially in Melbourne winter time or whatever. You'll just opt for the car, or, you don't want to drive out in traffic today. Whereas if there are these rides that are happening, even if it's once a month, once every 2 months, if you get a good ride with a bunch of mates, it kind of keeps that fire going. So it's probably maybe just about actually creating rides to go on. So groups that already exist to have them, and if they're not having them, someone, I guess, bold enough to just start a Facebook group or start a ride for people to go on, any gender, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just it's keeping the rides going, the group rides. I think that's what hooks you, especially if you're a new rider and you don't really feel like you have the confidence or much aspiration to keep it going or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that idea of finding community to kind of help build that or maintain that motivation and interest in riding. And, it sounds like also potentially trying to find reasons to ride. So whether that's, commuting, when can I ride instead of maybe taking the car if I've got both, or how can I find people to ride with so I've got a reason to get on the bike on the weekend or something, or when I'm not working. Yeah, that sounds neat. I am conscious of our time and wanted to make sure that we keep this a bit shorter.
Yeah, we can keep going. That's fine.
So I wondered, something I kind of ask everybody who comes on the show is a little bit about maybe what bikes you have or bike, and do you name your bikes?
Yeah, so I'm not very cool, to be honest with you. I only have one bike at the moment, and it's a Kawasaki W800. So I think it's a 2016, so it's quite new. And anyone who doesn't know that bike, I basically say it's a Japanese version of a Triumph Bonneville. So it's that sort of naked,
nice,
classic English racer looking bike. And I got that bike because back then I'd still do sometimes use my bike for work. So I wanted something that was reliable, that I could take fanging out in the mountains. I could take it on long trips. I could start it every morning for work and just know that I have no issues. And so far it's provided. After all these years, it's done me well. I don't name my bikes. I just don't. It just doesn't inspire me. I've never named one of my bikes before, ever.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if I had the time and the gumption and the money to build something really stupid, then I might name it something fun. But yeah, I've never been inspired to name my cars or bikes. Nothing against it. It's just, it doesn't come to me.
That's fine. I do find people are either in the camp or not in the camp. And I've yet to work out, what is the personality trait or something that is more likely to indicate one person's in one camp or not yet, but I haven't got quite enough evidence. But I'm with you. I've got just the one bike. She's the only one that I need. She does all the things that I want to do, all the types of ride that I'm interested in. Although if I had a little bit more money, I might buy an adventure bike to do some off-road things. But
Fun.
that's also about finding, that community, which is just a little bit different to the kind of road group riding community too. So
It
that's
really
okay.
is. And we've tried to get those girls over to Sheila's, and some have come and some still do come,
Yep.
but it hasn't really latched that strongly. I'd say, oh man, I'd say like 85% of the riders that come to Sheila's or even more are like road, riders.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I probably would have clocked when I did a bit of a wander around earlier this year, maybe like 70-80% were probably cruiser style or a bit like yours, that kind of modern classic style of bike. And then a small handful of maybe more sports tourers or sports bikes, a bit like mine, and then a handful of dirt or adventure bikes. Which I thought was very interesting. Yeah,
We definitely tend to be that kind of cruiser chopper kind of
yeah,
event. It feels like that's really that's like a heavy theme. And again, like anything from Sheila's like that kind of comes about organically. So I think maybe that's like a Melbourne thing, or because we're so close to Melbourne, or what's actually influenced that. But obviously Harley Davidson is our main sponsor as well.
yeah.
So yeah, lots of Harleys, a lot of Harley lovers. So
Oh, I mean, they are all absolutely gorgeous bikes, and I wondered if it might be about because it's that little bit of ride out of say Melbourne, and quite a few people that I talked to were from Melbourne and surrounds. Maybe not as many people want to be sitting on a dirt bike or a sports bike, a super sport bike for the hour and a bit ride up from Melbourne, which I could understand.
look, hey, I've got friends, close friends who come to the event every year who have got some of the sickest like custom like
Yeah.
survivor bikes and choppers, like amazing. And they just don't want to bring them to Sheila's a lot of the time because like they break down a lot, and they're just like, well, I just want to be able to get there and back,
Yeah.
safely and soundly and feel confident in that. So then they just get their daily or whatever,
Yeah.
and bring that to Sheila's. So, I mean, we're always trying to encourage the cool bikes. So like bring your weird, bikes. But people want to feel like they can actually get to the event, you know.
Yeah, and I think the people that I spoke to, about probably, maybe about half, two-thirds road, but not everyone rode there. A couple of people had never ridden before, but just kind of wanted to be there for the vibes, and a little bit similar to I think what you were saying earlier. Just trying to make a space. Not everyone has to be a rider, but interested in that kind of world, or the things alongside it, that everyone is welcome. And it just felt like a really lovely, inclusive space. And I hope that next year is going to be as exciting and fun as this year was.
And well done to both you and your partner for making the trek across. That's awesome from both of you. That was cool that he, did that with you and then politely stayed in the next city over. And that's really impressive that you came by yourself. That's really inspiring.
Oh,
And
thanks.
and it's really cool that you're now coming back, and you're coming back with a crew. Is that right? Or
Yeah, so organising a small little crew from Adelaide, so a girlfriend and a couple of others as well. And then I know that the Adelaide or the South Australia chapter of the Leiters are also organising a group over, a bigger group as well, from Adelaide, and then kind of coming straight back. But I think our plan is probably to come back via the Great Ocean Road, which is just lovely. So that'll be exciting to do the whole thing on bikes next year.
very cool, very cool. Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I did feel just like over social media, just a little bit of an energy coming from South Australia, Adelaide this year, and I was like, sick. That's good. Like
Cool.
sometimes, like sometimes you feel a really strong Queensland, like thing, and other times there's like heaps of Sydney girls coming or whatever. And yeah, I've just had a few people reach out, and I'm like, okay, there's a bit of an Adelaide, South Australia thing. That's cool. Like.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm excited for that.
I think it should be really fun. Um, Before we finish up, is there anything else that you would like to say, either about Sheilas or about writing in general?
I was gonna say no, not really, but I guess like I said, I'm in my 40s, so I'm like 42, and I only started writing like maybe like 10 years ago or something. So that's I'm a latecomer, but literally when I first started writing, there weren't that many women around. Like I go to events and there were always like the girlfriends of, or like this inactive sort of person maybe sitting on the back of the bike or whatever. And then I met some women with some strong personalities. I have a very strong personality. We like to throw our weight around a bit, especially back then at the time. And we were turning up to events and like having the best time, and now that's just like the norm, which is awesome. Like, like Sheila's has been going for like 8 years now, and more women and gender diverse people are getting on bikes. And if there's a biker event, it's like nearly 50-50 now. Like, it's just really grown, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I feel really proud. Like, not proud of me. I feel almost like I'm a mum. Like, I just feel really proud of all these, like, especially these young women who are just so fucking cool and confident and sick and turning up to stuff and riding bikes. And it's just a beautiful thing to see.
I absolutely agree. I've been writing for a little over 5 years now, and I think the number of women and gender diverse people who attend an event is definitely increasing. One of the things that I really love seeing, it's absolutely the kind of young women and non-binary people who just kind of coming and get going. Also really love the stories of women and trans women and non-binary people in their kind of 40s and 50s who've just decided, you know what, this year is it, I'm going to do it. Been wanting to for so long, and who for a variety of reasons haven't, and then they just decide, yep, this is it, it's happening. I'm getting my license, I'm getting a bike, I've always wanted this. And I have so much respect for them, because that would be, I can imagine it'd be pretty scary.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, time in your life as well.
Point. I love that Sheila's and obviously invites women of all ages to come to the event. So, I mean, my mum comes all the time. She's in her 70s. We have women in their 60s, obviously 50s, 40s. So you get 80s. It doesn't matter. I'll say majority of the people who come to Sheila's are 20s and 30s. But, we really encourage people of all ages to come to our event. And if you are over 60 and you're listening to this, please contact us, because we will give you a special seniors code to get a discount off the ticket as well.
Awesome. I'd love it. All right. I think that's I've taken more than enough of your evening. Thank you so much, Remmi, for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you and everybody else at Sheila's in just a few months' time. It's going to be so
really
much fun.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much for chatting. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, that was fantastic. That was great to hear that. And as I reflect on it, it's really exciting to think that this year I won't be driving a shotgun for you as you ride across, but that you're going to be going across with your girlfriend and with probably several other riders as well, which I think is just really exciting that that momentum is growing, and it sounds like you are all going to have a fantastic time.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be quite a different experience this year. Partly with the ride over, so this will be absolutely the longest ride that I've ever done, and and also not having that same sense of, I think, safety, in terms of having the car there just in case, things like that. But also, getting to go over with a bunch of friends. I think that's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah.
And also, I know there is another group coming from Adelaide who are heading over separately. But, being able to be there and know people, not be Nigel no mates this year. That's going to be really great. I'm really, really looking forward to that for sure. And you'll get a weekend off, Mark.
I will work out something to do. Probably go for a ride.
Or play with all of the motorbikes in the shed.
I'll find something to fill the time in.
No, but it was great having that chance to talk to Remmi, and hear a little bit more about how Sheilas came to be. What were some of the things that I suppose spoke to you, Mark, listening to that conversation?
I think the first one was the focus on it being almost a sacred space for women in the gender diverse community, and not just for those who are already riding, but those who are just liking the idea of motorbikes. And I think one of the phrases that jumped out was, talking about how you don't have to do everything there. Come to do what you feel comfortable doing. And I think that's fantastic because, again, speaking from a male perspective, going to events and group rides, like that is something that I don't go to all that many group rides, and I rarely go to events because the different factions that exist within the motorcycling communities, the broader motorcycling community, sometimes that can be quite difficult to work out, okay, am I actually going to have fun if I go along to this thing? Or are these really, we ride bikes, but beyond that, no, I'm probably not going to enjoy it. So I thought that was one really excellent point that was made, and only makes me slightly envious that there aren't similar focus things for the broader motorcycle community, because at least in South Australia, they all tend to be quite niche and quite focused, whereas this doesn't sound that way, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, is quite exciting. And it was really, I think, heartening to hear directly from Remmi that idea that you can come and you can engage in as much or as little as you want. And I think that hopefully addresses, I think, some of the, not concerns, but just points that I think I've heard some people talk about when I've discussed Sheilas with them. They've had a look at the pictures online and thought, oh, there's a lot happening there. I'm not sure that that's for me. Yep. So hopefully that's kind of reassuring that, this is an opportunity to maybe push to the edge of your comfort zone, possibly in like a safe space. But absolutely, everyone has that autonomy and that choice to be able to engage in as much or as little as you want. Which I think is really lovely.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a blueprint really for how we should be thinking about a lot of motorcycling events in particular. That maybe it comes back to inclusive design, possibly.
Absolutely
fits within that broader space of designing for inclusivity, just to say, come and be who you are and enjoy the experience as you find things enjoyable, which I think is fantastic.
Yep, for sure.
The other one that I wanted to call out, and this, for those of you who aren't aware, Kahiwa and I both spent quite a few years working in education broadly, but mostly in higher education. And part of my jobs in the last, 5, 6, 7 years of that career was looking at how or what some of the factors are that contributed to the likelihood of a student, once they start studying in a university or the vet sector, the vet or community education, whatever you want to call it, sector, what keeps them connected. And
I think we talked about what keeps them connected to the learning experience, more likely to complete their education. That's one of the things that is really a hot topic within our education outside of kind of compulsory education, for sure.
Yep, and particularly and this is where it starts to have a real crossover, some of the highest at-risk groups in those environments were people who are what's called first in family. So they're the first person in their family that had attempted a post-compulsory educational piece. Very often they would be from groups that just hadn't always been in that space of being educated at a higher level, which in motorcycling terms, listening to the interview, talking about the people that had grown up riding bikes on farms, and they were always a part of it, or their dad had ridden or somebody else had ridden. So a big part of education is saying for those people who come in via a pathway that's not just a very easy one where you are within your people pretty much straight away, trying to look at how do those people stay engaged in those early, what are the most high risk points of dropping out in education. And I think it is similar within the motorcycling community as well, to say that when you are brand new, it is incredibly daunting if you don't have good people around you to help you out.
Yeah.
And I would argue that probably one of the biggest times that you are likely to just say, no, it's all too scary and hard, is in those first weeks or months after you've made the first step, and then you hit a blocker, you don't know anybody to talk to, and you just say, no, too hard, put it in the corner, walk away. So that is where I see communities and events like Sheila's as being so important to try and create that connection and that community as a way of not necessarily attracting people in, because I think a lot of people getting into motorcycling, they want to get into it, but helping them get through that first little difficult phase by feeling connected, supported, like they're part of a community. So to me, that is why things like Sheila's are so important. And also that's really what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create some form of community and support for people in a similar situation.
Yeah. And I think the other aspect of that, the thing that makes connection and community actually really valuable is that that's where you learn all the unspoken things or the unspoken rules, all of the assumed knowledge that people already in the community think everybody just knows. And it's similar in education, and I think it's similar in motorcycling. All of the things about what makes common sense when you're parking or moving or buying a bike or selling a bike or thinking about group rides and long rides, that unless you actually have someone share with you, it's I think quite unreasonable to assume that everybody knows that as common sense. And so similarly, that's where the reason why we started this was to share some of that knowledge that some people, I think, haven't realised that they've picked it up along the way somewhere, and not everybody knows that. And it's when you build community and connection, that's one way of getting that information too.
Absolutely. Yes, the obvious is only obvious once it's obvious to you.
Yeah.
And until then, no, actually that's not obvious. That's really, opaque. So
I think just on that, I think I want to do a bit of a shout out to a new friend of mine and now yours, who newish to riding, a bunch of different things that she didn't know, and about riding her bike and cleaning and preparing it and possibly getting it ready to sell. And we were able to go and spend a little bit of time with her to help her get ready to do that. And I think for her, that connection, that community, that opportunity to learn in a safe kind of space has been pretty fundamental, hopefully, to her staying riding and not giving up. So
certainly hope so.
Shout out.
Yeah, definitely. And then the importance as well, which probably ties back to Sheila's, of once you are past a lot of those barriers, then being willing to share your time to pay that forward.
Yeah.
To then say you actually kind of do have a responsibility to help the next generation of riders, wherever they're coming from, to get over some of those initial barriers, as people have helped you before.
Yeah.
So, but I'm getting preachy now. What else did you hear from the recording, from the interview? Sorry.
I think one of the things that I really liked that Remmi kind of touched on with Sheila's is that it's a space for people who ride all sorts of different kinds of bikes. That I think a lot of clubs, a lot of festivals, a lot of events, at least that I've seen, I haven't been a part of very many, will tend to have a particular type of rider or bike or ride style in mind. And what I really liked about Sheila's when I was there, and I think that Remmi touched on, was just it's a space for different types of rides, different maybe factions of the motorcycling community, and that this is intended to be a space where if you've got any kind of interest in any kind of motorcycling-ish adjacent things, then this is a space for you. And I think that's also really, really nice as well. Being someone who doesn't ride a cruiser, it feels really nice to be able to be in a space where that's okay.
Yeah, it's one of the slightly disappointing things about some elements of the motorcycle community that seem to be a little bit more that, well, yeah, if you don't like this type of bike or this brand of bike, then, I'm not going to talk to you, because why would I? Whereas, I don't know, I'm much more of an advocate of saying if it's got two wheels, then, yeah, great. Good. It's interesting. It's different. It's all a part of that same loosely coupled collective of people that are into bikes. And no doubt there's somebody there with a Can-Am saying, "Hey, what about things with three wheels?"
Was just thinking that. Are you being Tricity exclusive?
Look,
excluding.
We love Tricities. We love Can-Ams. I wouldn't ride one, but more power to anybody who does, for whatever reason. That they do. It's like in the cycling community. There's always somebody that rocks up on a recumbent. There's always one. So no, really, that diversity and that inclusivity, I think, is what makes it interesting. And having that very closed mindset of. Wherever, unless you ride a particular style or brand, to me just makes no sense. Not looking at any groups in particular.
I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
I think the other thing that was really interesting, really heartening, talking to Remmi, and that feels similar to at least what I feel like I've noticed over the last few years, is just that there are more and more women and gender diverse people who are getting into motorcycling. And I think that is only a good thing.
Yep.
The more people who are not men who are riding, then the more variety that we're likely to have in terms of gear and hopefully one day bikes. That will cater to people maybe of shorter heights, smaller statures. That would be really, really nice to have a little bit more variety there. And I think it also means that the women and gender diverse people who are riding feel more confident, more invited, more likely to feel like this is for them, less likely to have maybe a feeling that you're having to fight or create or take up space. It can just be a place where we are, and I think that would be really lovely.
And I think, as I said before, that really is what we are trying to help with here by doing this podcast. We hope it's helping. We hope it's helping someone, someone's, ideally more than one person out there. So,
Ideally. But that's all right.
Now, what have we got next? What are we going to talk about next in next episode, Kahiwa?
Next. I'm still a little bit obsessed thinking about Sheilas Shakedown and preparing for the ride over. It's fairly front of mind at the moment. So we are going to build on episode 13, where we talked about how to prepare your bike and the things to think about when planning a route on a longer ride. And so next episode, we're going to focus a little bit more on what gear to pack for a long ride, such as that trip from Adelaide to Pillion or any other longer distance rides where you might be away from major cities. Some of those things to kind of think about. And we'll probably also continue to share a little bit more about the specifics of what we're doing to prepare for our ride over to Sheilas, which will be, I think, all up close to a good 20 hours-ish in the saddle there and back. So
it'll be getting close to it, given that you're going the longer way home. I think when I did all the equivalent of that, then it ended up being about 1,600 kilometres, which is about 1,000 miles for any of our US listeners. Rest of the world in kilometres, but anyway, so about 1,000 miles. So you are going to rack up quite a few hours in the saddle, and you are not going to be able to, even though you have decked out your bike as a touring rig now, you're still going to be quite limited in what you can take on a longer ride. Yeah. So look forward to that one.
That should be excellent, and can't wait to share with you all the thinking on that. And feel free to drop any comments to us about what you think about in terms of preparing for a long ride or your thoughts about Sheilas. But please, until next time, ride safe and have fun. Beyond the Pillion is brought to you by Kahiwa Sebire and Mark Drechsler, and Women Moto, the online magazine for women motorcyclists. Go to womenmoto.com. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Beyond the Pillion. Drop a comment or send us a DM to let us know what you want to hear more about. And if you like this episode, please leave a review or tell a friend.